and welcome. You're listening to Disney Travel Tales with me, your host, Jenny. Here we talk all things Disney destinations, be it the parks or cruises. And if you love traveling to Disney or you just dream about it, then you have found the right podcast. Today's episode is going to be a top my 4 favorite things from my January 2026 Walt Disney World trip. So in new Disney Travel Tales format, this will just be a really short trip report, mostly just highlighting some of my favorite things from this trip. My number one favorite thing was time of year that we traveled. We ended up traveling during marathon weekend early in January. And I will say I was a little bit nervous traveling during the marathon because I had never actually been there during this time. A couple of years ago, I did take a trip right after the marathon, but for just timing wise, Eve and I are both mothers. And so we had to coordinate our schedules, and that was quite difficult with so many kids in the mix. So this was just kind of a time that worked out for us, and this might be my new favorite time to travel. Even though there were a ton of people there for the marathon, the parks felt so empty because the majority of people traveling were there to run. They weren't there to enjoy the parks and do the parks your typical traveler will do the parks. So that was just such a pleasant surprise. Everything felt very, not empty, but just not busy at all. This would be probably one of my top recommended times to travel, especially if you were doing like a couple's trip, a girl's trip, a guy's trip. It was fantastic. We loved it. Plus, seeing the runners, talking to some of the runners, they were so happy. It was just such a great vibe, such a great crowd, and that we just absolutely loved it. My second favorite thing was staying at Saratoga Springs Resort. This was my first time staying at Saratoga Springs. We got a 2-bedroom villa, mostly because it's a pretty decently affordable 2-bedroom villa when it comes to just pricing and stuff. We were supposed to have another friend traveling with us, and so we just wanted to make sure we had space. It ended up just being me and Eve, and we had a ton of space, but we absolutely loved it. And I loved this resort so, so much. It is gorgeous. It is peaceful. It was so clean, and I don't know, the rooms were so spacious, perfectly laid out. Sitting on the balcony in the morning drinking coffee was just so relaxing. Our room, we stayed in Congress Park, which is one of the sections of the resort, and our room actually overlooked Disney Springs. And it was just such a nice vibe every morning. We loved it, and I would highly recommend staying here. I would stay here again. There were so many pools at this resort, so many more pools than I was actually expecting. The eating area, the cafeteria area was so nice and big. It did have a really small gift shop, but I think that's because it is mostly just a DVC resort, but it's on a golf course. So even just driving or walking around the resort, it felt so nice. It really didn't feel Disney-ish at all. So it just depends on your preference there. It does have an internal bus loop. We never had a problem with that. Again, I'm thinking it's just because the time of year we traveled. Our room was right by a bus stop, and we were one of the last bus stops. So after the bus came to our area, we pretty much headed off to the parks, and we always could get on a bus. There was never a full bus that came to us. Coming back, even just stopping at all the different stops before we got to our stop wasn't a big deal. Again, we never got on a full bus ever. I've actually had some of the best bus luck at this resort that I've ever had, which if you've listened to the podcast, I have the worst bus luck. I even told Eve, beware, I have the worst bus luck. This trip was totally different. It was absolutely fantastic. It's also so close to Disney Springs. Our first evening there when we checked in, we just walked on over to Disney Springs, walked on back, and that was just really fun. Again, highly recommend this resort for a girls trip, friends trip, couples trip, even a trip if you are traveling with older kids. I think a multi-generational family would love this resort as well. My third favorite thing from the trip was trying out Geo 82, which is an adults-only bar at Epcot. Being that I typically only travel with my daughter, this was like my one chance to get to try this bar since children are not allowed. You walk into the side of Spaceship Earth, kind of where, when you get off Spaceship Earth ride where they have all those like interactive things, it's kind of over there in the corner, a little door that you can go through to check into your experience at Geo 82. When we were there at the time, the elevator was broken, so you had to walk upstairs. So that's just something to keep in mind if you have mobility issues, if there might not be an elevator option. After we checked in, we just walked up the stairs. We sat in a separate waiting room for a little bit before they called us to our table. They sat us at the chef/bartender table, which was really neat. It was like this short top, like this low top up right next to, right at the bar where the bartender was, kind of making some drinks in front of us. She had like a little table there, and she was so much fun to talk to and gave us fantastic recommendations. We also had a waitress at our table, to take our food orders and stuff, but she was there kind of telling us about the drinks, telling us about the bar itself, where some of the ideas came from. And she recommended for us, we ended up getting a 0 proof cocktail, but we added gin to it, and it was called a walk through the garden. This was one of the best drinks I've literally ever had. It was so good. So do keep in mind, if you visit, you can get one of the 0 proof cocktails with liquor in it. We also ordered some small bites because this was going to technically be our lunch. We got the fungi flatbread, which was like a flatbread pizza with different types of mushrooms and cheeses on it. Absolutely amazing. We got the like charcuterie board, also so good. Even I aren't huge meat fans, but I will say we absolutely devoured this board. It was delicious. Everything was so good. With the drink and these two things, it was so filling, and it was such a nice lunch. I will say that we got there, I think our reservation was around 11:30. And so the position of the sun was shining like directly into this bar area. So the people that were sitting up at the window, they actually had the blinds closed. So you can kind of see through the blinds, but it wasn't a great view. So like when I was picturing going here, I pictured just having this amazing view and all this, this experience. We did not get the view part, and it was a little bit warm, but that was the only negative. And honestly, it wasn't even that big of a negative, especially for us, because we weren't even sitting anywhere close to the window. It is small, and so once it gets crowded, which it will typically always be crowded because it usually books up for all reservations, it gets a little bit loud, but honestly, it was so much fun. It's such a great, nice escape to get away from, the hustle and bustle of the parks, especially when you're on an adults trip and you want a little break from all the chaos of the kiddos that are running around. My fourth favorite thing about this trip was just being with my best friend and experiencing the parks a completely different way than she is used to. She typically travels with her large family, and they even take her parents and sometimes her husband's parents. So she's always in a really big group of people and pretty much at the mercy of her children and what they want to do, which is typical for parents. I was so happy to kind of show her a new way to do Disney. Just a much more relaxed way to do Disney. I would be like, hey, you want to go in this shop when we're in Epcot? And she's like, I've never been in this shop. We walked through the countries. We stopped to hear the Voices of Liberty, which is one of my all-time favorite things to do in Epcot and one of my favorite things to take people to do. She didn't even know that existed, and she absolutely loved it. It was stunning, as always. We just took everything really slow. Even at Magic Kingdom, we did rides that sometimes her kids don't want to wait for, or they can't get a lightning lane for, so they choose not to do it. We walked through all the stores that she's never even been in. We went and saw shows like Country Bear Jamboree or the Tiki Room. Again, she's never seen those because her kids were never interested in it. And overall, it was just such a great time. When we went over to Animal Kingdom, we, instead of just, doing the thrill rides, the Flight of Passage, the Expedition Everest, we went and saw the Festival of the Lion King show. We just walked around and explored and just took things slow and enjoyed it. We got snacks, we got drinks when we wanted, and it was just a completely different pace of a trip. And I loved that so much. We took a midday break at Magic Kingdom and went over to the new Polynesian Tower and ate at the new restaurant over there. I think it's called Wailulu Bar and Grill. This place is amazing. You have to eat there on your next Disney trip. It was so good. It was just such a nice midday break. And even she had mentioned, like, I didn't even know. I would never have thought to take a midday break and leave the park. Again, because sometimes when you're with your family and you're with your kids, that's not something they're going to be interested in doing. And so it was just really fun to kind of show her a new way to Disney. And I also think if you have a friend or a family member who might not love Disney or have these really big preconceived notions about traveling to Disney, take them on a trip, just the two of you, and show them a new way to do Disney, because I also did this with my husband and showed him a new way, and he appreciated it so much because, again, sometimes the busyness, the hustle and the bustle, people don't want to do that all the time. And it is fun, don't get me wrong. I love doing a big family trip, but I also love these smaller trips where you can really concentrate on the person you were with and show them something that you love. Or even if you're the person that maybe has only done the big hustle and bustle trips, taking the time to just doing a one-on-one trip and trying new things and maybe trying out a new way to Disney yourself. I did have an honorable mention that I wanted to mention. So part of the new format of the show is I'm not writing scripts and I'm not following like a guideline. I'm kind of just coming on and freely talking about something I love. I will do more research for more research-based episodes, but for episodes like this, I'm kind of getting on and just talking about what I love and kind of just letting it go. But after I started talking, I did forget about something. So I do want to say that my honorable mention for the trip was watching Happily Ever After with Eve. They typically do the Seats and Suites dessert party, which if you've ever done that, you're seated for the fireworks and you don't get a front view of the castle and the projections. You kind of get It's actually not a great view at all. So you mostly see the fireworks and you do get to see Tinkerbell fly. So she'd never actually seen all the projections for Happily Ever After, just like up front. Since we were celebrating her 50th birthday, I went ahead and booked us a dessert party so I could make sure this was just a really fun celebration for her and we could get that front view. And so watching that with her, seeing that with her for the first time, again, I absolutely loved it. It was so much fun and it was such a special moment. Overall, it was the most amazing trip. I had such a great time. It was very hard to narrow these things down that we loved and were important to us. But I did want to let you know when our podcast together, our adventure book, starts up in April, stay tuned because we are going to do a full recap of our trip and she will be there to talk about it as well. It's going to be much deeper, a much longer episode because typically those might be a tad bit longer than over here on Disney Travel Tales. If you've ever done a couple's trip, a girl's trip, a guy's trip, a friend's trip, just whatever, let me know about it. I would love to hear how it went. You can email me or you can send me a text message, and all of that information is in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to come back next Monday for an all-new episode where I am going to convince you why you should take a short Disney trip. So until then, this is Jenny, and may all your Disney travel dreams become a reality.